This summer, try the new Strato Frappuccino blended beverage at Starbucks. It's the classic blended iced coffee you know and love, now topped with a creamy layer of handcrafted brown sugar cold foam. Available for a limited time. Your Strato Frappuccino is ready at Starbucks.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Walmart Business is in the business of helping your business, regardless of whether you're building bridges, building spreadsheets, or building lesson plans. Ooh, that looks fun. Walmart Business can help save you time, money, and hassle so you can focus on what you're building instead of what your supply closet is missing. In short, we take care of business so you can do more with yours. We're the Walmart you love, now for your business. Learn more at business.walmart.com.
Love espresso, drip coffee, and cold brew? With the Ninja Luxe Cafe, if you can crave it, you can brew it. Espresso, balanced. Drip coffee, rich. Cold brew in a flash. With Barista Assist technology, you brew with no stress and no guesswork and make perfect silky microfoam hands-free from dairy or plant-based milks. Shop the Ninja Luxe Cafe at ninjakitchen.com.
You set the table, put on a playlist, even made the lasagna from scratch. And now you're wearing it. OxyClean Max Force Spray tackles tough, set-in stains the first time. Adulting is hard. Fighting stains shouldn't be. OxyClean Max Force. It's not clean unless it's OxyClean.
Hello and welcome to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. We are so excited to bring you this show.
Our podcast is all about unraveling all of your favorite mysteries from the Assassin's Creed games. Each episode will be talking about a different topic in the Assassin's Creed universe. From Pieces of Eden, solar flares, and the Isu, to the Hidden Ones, the Order of Ancients, and of course, the Animus, we will seek to uncover it all.
So join us and maybe even take a leap of faith.
Hello and welcome to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. My name is Shelby. You also know me as She-Cup, and I'm here with my co-host.
Hey, I am Austin or Teacup.
That you are, and we are back with another Assassin or Templar episode, and I have to say right off the bat, I am very excited about this one.
Yeah, this is another one who we do technically, canonically know where his allegiance does lie. But we're going to theorize a little bit on there based on his historical overview. So today we are talking about J. Robert Oppenheimer. And just as a note, as I do with all of these are very, very surface level historical overviews. If I miss something or something is not like there's this point that I bring up, they're like, oh, but this is the most important point. Let me know, but just know that like these are just what I consider the basic points of kind of establishing who this person was as a person.
Also, just at the outset, last summer, when the movie Oppenheimer came out, I got really into it. Me and my friends Barbenheimered. So it was the year of Oppenheimer and Barbie summer. So I got really into that. It's a great movie. Everybody should go watch it if you're at least vaguely interested in this character.
Yeah. So let's just dive right in. So Oppenheimer is an American theoretical Jewish physicist, and Jewish is important because of the time period that he is primarily active in, which is the 20s to the 40s. So this is very, very important. And he also studies in Germany before coming to America. And so his Jewish identity is very important to his backstory and his historical character. So I don't know if the movie went over this or you knew this, but his name is Julius Robert Oppenheimer, which if my name was Julius, I think I'd go by J. Robert too.
What's wrong with Julius?
I don't know. I don't like it as a name.
Julius Caesar?
Exactly. He's a Templar.
I know, but the way you said
He's like
it...
the Templar.
Okay, yes. But the way you said it is like, this is the worst name of all time. And I'm like, it's really not that bad. I mean, Johnny Cash has a song called A Boy Named Sue, and I think that's probably the worst name out there.
A Boy Named Sue?
Yeah.
Okay. So Oppenheimer studies at Cambridge, where he has a terrible time. He is quoted saying, "I am having a pretty bad time. The lab work is a terrible bore, and I am bad at it, so it's impossible to feel I am learning anything." So this is like the first kind of big conflict that we really get with Oppenheimer from what we know, and it's one of the first and early scenes of the movie of what I'm going to talk about, which is he develops an antagonistic relationship with his tutor, Patrick Blackett, who is a future Nobel laureate. According to Oppenheimer's friend, Francis Ferguson, Oppenheimer once confessed to leaving a poisoned apple on Blackett's desk, and Oppenheimer's parents convinced the university authorities to not expel him. There are no records of either the poisoning incident or probation, but Oppenheimer had regular sessions with a psychiatrist. So if you have seen the movie, this is the opening scene of the movie, where he is leaving the poisoned apple on there and he bails last minute. Oppenheimer was plagued by periods of depression throughout his life. He once told his brother Frank, "I need physics more than friends," which is sad. That's sad to me.
It's very sad to me, but also I'm going off of the movie for everything I know about him because I have not read the book yet. But he's not a very friendly person. He's not a very charismatic person. He's not, and he's brilliant. And I think that sometimes people who are that brilliant have no idea how to talk to another human being. And I think that he fits into that category.
And I think later in his life, he does kind of grow into that more like socialist, or not social, well, socialist, but we'll get to that later. We'll get there. But this more social being, especially when he gets to Berkeley. I think Berkeley is where Oppenheimer thrives. I think a lot of what he's and Los Alamos, obviously. But like when he's at Berkeley, I feel like he is a better version of himself. So in 1926, Oppenheimer leaves Cambridge for one of the world's leading centers for theoretical physics, the University of Göttingen, to study under Max Born. Oppenheimer obtained his Doctor of Philosophy degree in March of 1927 at age 23. Okay, we need to pause here because most people end college at 22. Mm-hmm. If you graduate high school at 18 and you stay 4 years, you're finishing college at 22. That's your bachelor's degree. Oppenheimer got his Doctor of Philosophy, which, I mean, I'm not quite sure how 1927 academics work, but I'm assuming it's pretty similar that he had to get 2 degrees before he got his Doctor of Philosophy.
You may have just had 1 degree. If he went directly from Cambridge or Oxford, whichever one he went to, I don't remember, directly to the Doctor of Philosophy program, that would make sense to me. And so like, I think a lot of times back then they didn't have like the master's degree in between the way we do. But like today, if you were going to go get a Doctor of Philosophy, you would have to go to college and then probably do a 2 or 3 year master's program. And then your PhD usually is like 4 years. Mm-hmm. So like you're looking at 28-ish at the earliest to graduate.
Yeah. So 23 is pretty unheard of. It's pretty young. He is supervised by Bourne. After the oral exam, his professor administrating it, James Frank, reportedly said, "I'm glad that's over. He was on the point of questioning me," which meant that Oppenheimer was so smart that it seemed like he was testing the administering professor rather than the professor testing him.
I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I would not have been able to do that. I am nowhere near as smart as my professors were.
Even now, years after your degree.
Exactly. During the 1920s, Oppenheimer remained uninformed on world affairs. He claimed that he did not read newspapers or popular magazines and only learned of the Wall Street crash of 1929 while he was on a walk with Ernest Lawrence 6 months after the crash occurred. So in his early life, he is very uninvolved. That's an important note. He is uninvolved and does not care about the grand scheme of the world around him.
But I mean, I think it should be noted, like, this is extreme privilege because it means that his parents and the people, I assume just his parents, that were financially funding his lifestyle were probably not affected by the Great Depression, by the crash, which means that they were extremely wealthy if they had, cash and gold and funds that they could use to continue funding his lifestyle. That means he was extremely privileged. And we already kind of could guess, like, yeah, okay, you were probably from a wealthy family if your parents were able to send you from America to Oxford for school,
Yeah. I do think it's important to note that when you get into doctoral programs, that they are almost completely funded by the by the institution that's accepting you into those programs.
I mean, I don't know how it worked back then, and that is true for like the tuition and the school stuff, but like usually you still have to like pay for your own housing, pay for your own food and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I think it probably was a little more like, oh, you could get housing and stuff. I don't know. I do not have enough information. This is funny. He once remarked that he never cast a vote until the 1936 presidential election. This is FDR's second term that he votes in. I looked it up.
That's interesting. I can't imagine. Like, I voted in every election I've been able to.
Me too.
It's so weird. I don't know. And I know there's tons and tons and tons of people out there who don't vote. I mean, only something like a small percentage of our population vote, but it is crazy to me.
Right, but I think we really need to take this with a grain of salt, because if he is, for most of the 20s in Europe, absentee voting is probably super difficult. That he didn't really care and he didn't want to bother with it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's probably true.
So he is uninvolved with these politics, but when he comes to America, so he comes back to America to study at Berkeley and live there and everything like that. So as the 30s get into stuff, he starts caring. So in 1934, he earmarked 3% of his annual salary, which is about $100. So this is the equivalent of $2,300 purchasing power in 2023 for 2 years to support German physicists fleeing Nazi Germany. During the 1934 West Coast waterfront strike, he and some of his students at Berkeley attended a dock workers rally. In 1939, he joined the American Committee for Democracy and Intellectual Freedom, which campaigned against the persecution of Jewish scientists in Nazi Germany. Like most liberal groups of this era, the committee was later branded a communist front. And this is really one of the first things that we get in there. Oppenheimer and his relationship to communism is going to be a big deal.
It is the deal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, truly, like, in the movie, at least, it portrays this issue as overshadowing his contributions to science, which is insane if you really think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how ever present the Red Scare was in America in this time period.
Yes, it is worth noting, and I want to say this now before we get into where we're headed with the rest of his life. It is highly, highly contested among historians whether or not he was an actual member of the Communist Party.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the movie paints the picture that he was not necessarily a true member of the party, but he did have friends who were down for the cause. He had lovers who were in the party, but he distanced himself from communism, even if he was maybe perhaps swayed by them in his younger years.
This is something of Oppenheimer, especially in his like later young adulthood and like middle adulthood. Physics and science comes before everything else.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that politicians on Capitol Hill could never understand.
Mm-hmm. It's this scare in the Red Scare with all this. It's like, oh, if you have any affiliation, you want the destruction of America.
Yeah, and I mean that wasn't true then, and it's not true now.
Exactly. So in March of 1941, the Federal Bureau of Investigation opened a file on Oppenheimer. The FBI noted that Oppenheimer was on the executive committee of the Americans for Civil Liberties Union, which was considered a communist front organization. Most of the things that organizations that fought for civil liberties or civil rights or integration or anything like that were branded communist fronts.
Yeah. Like, I mean, and not even just like liberal conservative, like anything that really fought for like making our country better would have been branded a communist front because it threatened the status quo of America. And like it is crazy to me. But like the ACLU is still around.
Yes, it is. And they do a lot more. They do a lot of things when it comes for like workers' rights and racial rights, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
They're a great organization. Shortly thereafter, the FBI added Oppenheimer to its custodial detention index, which is a list of people to arrest in case of national emergency. And like people like to talk about, and I think we can compare this to this, the internment camps of Japanese American citizens. People like to say, oh, we learned our lesson with that and that we would never do that again. But not even a decade later, the FBI is already having a list of people who they can citizens that they can lawfully arrest because they're a threat to national security.
And that's to say nothing of modern day politics. But I'm afraid that this list is still around and I may be on it.
Maybe. Do you think there's an FBI agent assigned to listen to our podcast?
Probably not the Dragon Age Lorecast, but maybe this one.
Maybe this one. Well, if you are listening, I hope you're having a good day. You know, go get yourself a pizza.
Go get a little treat. Treat yourself.
Exactly. But with that, I think that kind of sets the stage for us to go to our mid-break. Oppenheimer being put on this custodial detention index. This is while he is working on the Manhattan Project that this happens. Mm-hmm. So,
well, just before we go to the mid-break, I do want to say it's interesting because, like, they make a big deal in the movie of, well, you can't go start the Manhattan Project until you get your clearance. And then he, like, goes or whatever, and they're like, but you still don't have your clearance, and it's this whole big drama. So to me, this is much more, the actual historical record is much more muddied than the movie makes it out to seem, which track for movies.
Right. And I think that it goes to say, like, and this is really important, the fear that Germany would beat us to the atomic bomb was super prevalent. And so I think that, yeah, there was this risk, but they were like, we can't build this without him.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, let's go to the mid-break.
What does every USAA member have in common? Family. We're one big family who supports the military community and their eligible families. And if you, your parent, or spouse served, you could join our family and save big on auto insurance. Visit USAA.com/join today to check your eligibility. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
Your local Benjamin Moore retailer is more than a paint expert. They're someone with paint in their soul, a sixth sense honed over decades. And if you have a question about paint, it's almost as if they can read your mind.
I sense you need a 2-inch angle brush for the trim in your family room. Regal selected an eggshell finish and directions to the post office.
Benjamin Moore paint is only sold at locally owned stores. Benjamin Moore. See the love.
If this were a Reese's TV ad, you'd be staring at a Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. And sure, my voice is peanut buttery smooth, but still, you need to see the peanut butter cups, right? No? I can really just say Reese's and you'll go get some? Okay, Reese's. 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 Really working, actually. Reese's. Reese's. I'm on to something. Reese's. Reese's. Reese's.
Ma cos'è? Shoot! Shoot a flying demon!
Quite a carriage you got there. Where did you buy it, if you don't mind me asking?
Ask all you want, Freddy. You'll never get an answer.
Damn it all. Was it my eyebrows?
Yes, and your face, voice, and body.
What have you done? We used them. They were not ready for firing. You could have gotten us all killed. Let me see. His breath is more fatal than our cannons. Only when you two fools are shooting them. There, try it.
Hello and welcome to the middle of the show. This is where we talk about all the things that have to do with the lore cast and not the lore of Assassin's Creed. So the first thing that I have to do is give a big shout out to all of our patrons. Thank you all so much for supporting us. We're so thankful for your support. And as we enter into this really busy time of Assassin's Creed Shadows releasing in the next 2 months and Dragon Age the Veilguard releasing in the next month and a half, it's really busy for us, and your financial support definitely helps us keep making the show and all of that. So if you can support us, we greatly appreciate it. And thank you so much to anyone who currently supports us or has supported us in the past. We truly appreciate you. And the next best way to support us is by leaving a rating or a review wherever you can on Spotify, Apple, or wherever else. And we are actually all caught up, I believe. So we don't have any to read today. So definitely leave us one if you have the chance before next week. And something else I want to shout out is our Discord server, which is a bumping place. We've got tons of people. So if you're looking for a place for friendships and especially among like-minded gamers, this is the place for you. Come join the Cups Podcasting and More server. It's the best place on the internet, and you can find the link to join in this episode description. So before we get back into the show, I know Austin wants to talk about our reactions to the world exploration trailer for Assassin's Creed Shadows that dropped today as we record this.
Yeah, so as of today, September 12th, we got a trailer that just kind of explored some of the scenery and world of the Assassin's Creed Shadow, and I just wanted to kind of come in here and come onto the show and say, I think the game looks great. I think I'm really excited for to interact with the world and everything like that. I know that Ubisoft has been getting a lot of flack, especially with some of the hate that Star Wars Outlaws is getting right now, but this game looks really, really good, and I'm very, very excited for it. I think I can tell that Ubisoft has put a lot of time in the past couple years since this game has been announced into really developing it.
I think it looks beautiful. I think there are some interesting choices they've made, and I think it makes sense. Like when you think about Japan, you think about the cherry blossoms. Like you just do. It's just something you associate. But I think the actual season that is in the game is not the right season for cherry blossoms or something like that. I was reading online, but like that's so minor. Like it's not a big deal. Like it's gonna be okay, y'all.
Right, like is that not what we want? We want pretty games with good stories.
Yeah, exactly. Like for me, it does not have to be this like so crazily accurate that it actually is like being alive back then, because I'm sure there's no way you can make it 100% accurate, even if you're trying to do that, because nobody that we know and can talk to was alive back then.
Right. And I think when we compare this to games like Assassin's Creed Syndicate and Assassin's Creed Unity, whose maps are so accurate to the actual cities that they're set in. I mean, they used Assassin's Creed Unity to rebuild Notre Dame after the fire because it was the only rendered 3D model computerized 3D model of the basilica.
Yeah, but like at least for Syndicate, we just have so much more information because it's just a more recorded era of history. Like it's the turn of the century, like 100 years ago, whereas Assassin's Creed Shadows is like 400 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like there's a really big difference between those two.
Right. And I think that like if they're going to be so focused on being historically accurate, there's only so far they can go back because our historical record only goes so far back.
True. I mean, very true. And not even that our historical record only goes so far back, but while we may have a historical record pretty far back into time, we don't know a lot about some of these early histories. There's not enough that we do know definitively to create a video game about.
And like even Assassin's Creed Valhalla, like, yeah, we know a lot, but if we compare what we know about Renaissance Italy to what we know about Anglo-Saxon England, it's like comparing mountains and molehills. And so I think that's just worth being said in there.
Yeah, absolutely agreed.
But anyway, I have one more question for you before we go.
Okay.
It has been many, many months, almost a full year, since we have done a Assassin's Creed Shelby's playthrough update.
No, it hasn't been that long. No, because I've definitely played Syndicate while we've lived here, and we've lived here for just over a year.
Yeah, you started playing Syndicate right before Baldur's Gate released.
Which was in December when we got it.
Yeah, so October, November, we're almost through September.
Okay, Austin. I definitely will. I mean, and I'm gonna play Shadows, obviously. Maybe I'll get into Mirage soon, but I'm gonna be really honest with you, like really brutally honest. I need the Assassin's Creed Lorecast listeners to know, and you, Austin, Dragon Age of the Veilguard is going to become my entire personality on October 31st, okay? That is going to become not only my entire personality, my entire life. That will be my identity for a solid month. But no, I will go back to Assassin's Creed and I will play Shadows, but I'm going to let you play Shadows first because we will only buy it once. I'm not buying a game multiple times. It's just not happening. So, like, I'm going to defer to you for Shadows the way I assume you're going to defer to me for Dragon Age.
Well, you won our bet, so you get to play Dragon Age first.
What bet?
We bet back when we started the podcast on when Dragon Age would release, and you said Q3 or 4 of 2024.
What did you say?
I said it would be till 2025.
I don't remember that, but if that's what you say, that's fine. But anyway, to answer the question for everybody, yes, I will be playing Assassin's Creed, but not until after the Dragon Age obsession is over. I'm sorry. We haven't had a game in 10 years. Assassin's Creed, we get a new game every year, every 2 years. So it just does not compare. Did you have more to add?
No, I just wanted you to play Syndicate. So here's a question. If I wanted to play Syndicate, can I override your save?
Do you want to play Syndicate?
Kind of a little bit.
But anyway, for now, let's get back into the show.
Introducing the new Volvo XC90 with 7-seat versatility, Google built-in, and advanced safety features for all your precious cargo. The new Volvo XC90, designed for life. Visit volvocars.com/US to learn more.
Eczema isn't always obvious, but it's real. And so is the relief from Ebglyss. After an initial dosing phase, about 4 in 10 people taking Ebglyss achieved itch relief and clear or almost clear skin at 16 weeks. And most of those people maintain skin that's still more clear at 1 year with monthly dosing.
Ebglyss, lebrikizumab LBKZ, a 250 milligram per 2 milliliter injection, is a prescription medicine used to treat adults and children 12 years of age and older who weigh at least 88 pounds or 40 kilograms with moderate to severe eczema, also called atopic dermatitis, that is not well controlled with prescription therapies used on the skin or topicals, or who cannot use topical therapies. Ebglyss can be used with with or without topical corticosteroids. Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection.
Searching for real relief? Ask your doctor about Ebglyss and visit ebglyss.lilly.com or call 1-800-LILY-RX or 1-800-545-5979.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Healthcare professionals can lead their careers with LinkedIn. Discover jobs by specialty, preferred shifts, and even desired salary. From mental health therapists to radiology technicians, it's now faster and easier for healthcare professionals to find the right fit. Learn more at linkedin.com/healthcare. Side effects may include faster job placement, improved work-life balance, and increased career satisfaction.
Malaka. But that madman, the self-proclaimed Bishop of the Ruins, is our biggest critic. He calls our playing the devil's bagpipes.
I will sleep with anyone as long as they agree to be executed in the morning.
Like Xantivis.
He was well satisfied with his bargain. Who is this toothsome fellow?
My queen, this is,
Well?
It is a generous offer, but I've already pledged my life to this woman.
Aya, you have chosen well.
So when Oppenheimer joins the Manhattan Project, which if you do not know, maybe if you are not a U.S. listener or you don't know, the Manhattan Project is the project that builds the atomic bomb during World War II. He joins in 1942. Oppenheimer wrote on his personal security questionnaire that he had been a member of just about every Communist Front organization on the West Coast.
Like, is that a direct quote?
Yep.
That's actually hysterical.
And years later, he claimed that he did not remember writing this. And he also is gone on record saying that, like, if I did write this, it was a joke.
I feel like that's just him trying to save his ass, though.
Maybe. So Oppenheimer's interests are not only science. He is deeply interested in things that would challenge him. And since science came very easily to him, he often developed interest in things that were mystical or cryptic. So while he's at Berkeley, he basically gets 2 job offers, one at Harvard and one at Berkeley. And he is like, what if I did both? And so he spends half his time in California at Berkeley and half his time in Massachusetts at Harvard.
I just don't understand. I mean, why do you want to do that?
I think he's a very ambitious man.
Yeah.
And I think he just wants... I think that he craves knowledge so much that he didn't want to miss out on anything. So he wanted to be on the groundbreaking work at Berkeley, and he also wanted to be at this respected institution like Harvard.
And I mean, I guess to be fair, this is again a person who said he needed physics more than he needed friends.
Yeah. So after he goes to Harvard, he began to equate himself with classical Hindu texts in their English translations. He also had an interest in learning languages and learned Sanskrit under Arthur W. Ryder at Berkeley in 1933. So he eventually does read the Bhagavad Gita and Meghaduta in the original Sanskrit, and he deeply, deeply ponders them. He later cites the Gita as one of the books that most shaped his philosophy of life. His brother Frank says that he did not convert to Hinduism, but it really did shape his life. It's like he didn't really believe or worship any of the Hindu gods, but he greatly respected their philosophy of life. And as we have stated, he obviously works on the Manhattan Project as lead scientist at Los Alamos, New Mexico. So this is a big quote and probably the most quoted part of Oppenheimer. Like, if you know anything about Oppenheimer other than that he worked on the Manhattan Project, you probably know the story that I'm about to mention. While witnessing the explosion of the atomic bomb at the Trinity site, Oppenheimer thought of the verses from the Bhagavad Gita. If the radiance of 1,000 suns were to burst at once into the sky, that would be like the splendor of the Mighty One. Now I am become death, the shatterer of worlds. And that word shatterer can be translated to shatterer or destroyer or something like that. And then this, when asked about it, he said this: we knew the world would not be the same. A few people laugh, A few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him, takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." And this is like a big moment for Oppenheimer. And like if you're watching the movie, this scene is entirely silent. Like maybe just like the sound of like ringing or something like that, but it is entirely silent until Oppenheimer utters this phrase.
This scene is really powerful for a number of reasons in the movie, because like the sound is delayed. So like you see the bomb exploding on the screen, but the sound of it is delayed like it would have been in real life for the viewer. And so it is just so silent. Like you could hear it when I went to see it in theaters, like you could hear somebody like crunching on their popcorn behind you. Like it was so silent. And then it comes and the background is the bomb, and then he sang. And it's very powerful. And to me, I know we'll probably get into this later, but like I remember when this movie came out, a lot of people, media illiterate people, were talking about how they didn't like this movie because it glorified Oppenheimer and it glorified the violence of creating the atomic bomb. And for me, I just don't know how you can watch that movie and see that scene of the destruction and Oppenheimer, the way that Cillian Murphy says the lines, how you can think that this movie is glorifying the situation.
This line is almost like this hastily said prayer, like this like panic that he says it so fast. He realizes what he has done, and I think that is further explained in the aftermath, that we see that where they're all standing and they're all celebrating, and he starts seeing the horrors that this bomb would create.
Yeah, but I think the interesting thing for me that at least the movie portrays in this quote is it feels like because this happens like almost midway through the movie. And so it feels like he's been working and working and working his whole life to figure out as much physics and to get this and make it happen and to beat the Germans and to do all this stuff. And he's been working, right? And then he accomplishes it. And almost immediately it's like, what have I done?
Yes, very much. I think it is worth noting that almost every scientist that worked on the Manhattan Project later regretted the invention of the atomic bomb. A lot of those people at Los Alamos later died of radiation poisoning and cancer and all these things.
Yeah.
So in November of 1945, so the war is almost over, or is over, Oppenheimer left Los Alamos to return to Caltech. He can't go back. Like, this is the point, and I think this is reflected in his quote, that we knew the world would not be the same. He cannot go back to just being a teacher at Berkeley. So in 1947, he accepted an offer from Louis Strauss, who will come up later, to take up the director of the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey. So 2 years later, and this really sets the stage, the Soviet Union in August of 1949 tests their atomic bomb. This came so much earlier than Americans expected. And over the next several months, there was an intense debate within the U.S. government, military, and scientific communities over whether to proceed with the development of the far more powerful nuclear fusion-based hydrogen bomb known as the Super. And in the movie, we see that this idea comes up early in the development of the atomic bomb, but the hydrogen bomb is significantly more destructive than the atomic bomb. So immediately following the end of the war, Oppenheimer argues against continuing the work on the Super at the time, due to both a lack of need and the enormous human casualties that would result from its use. In October of 1949, Oppenheimer and the General Advisory Committee recommended against the development of the Super, making Oppenheimer political enemies that would last for life. And one of those enemies would be Louis Strauss,
who is played by Robert Downey Jr.
Very well.
I mean, so well you can't even tell it's him.
I know. It creates this tension between them, and it creates a tension between Oppenheimer and the government, because the government is like, we need to have everything we want to do, and we need to have it before Russia does, and we need to do this. And Oppenheimer, and it's really Oppenheimer's lead, because this is important. Oppenheimer is such a respected name in the scientific community. I think the only person whose name at this time would carry more weight would be Albert Einstein. So when he is leading the General Advisory Committee, they're all going to bend to this. And this is what the government thinks. They think Oppenheimer is influencing all of this. So let me paint the picture. You have a Red Scare United States government who now realize that Russia has the same weapons that they do. And here is this person who has been on a arrest if there's a national emergency list, who just tanked the development of a stronger weapon. He and the GAC, the General Advisory Committee members, they're motivated by ethical concerns, feeling that such a weapon could only be strategically used, resulting in millions of deaths. Its uses therefore carries much further than the atomic bomb itself, the policy of exterminating civilian populations. And that is what they come against, is that they just don't feel it is ethical to continue to do this. And there were a lot of ethical concerns about the atomic bomb as well. I remember the scene where Oppenheimer goes back to Princeton or Harvard. He goes back to New Jersey and talks with Einstein. And it's basically the fear of like, is this going to ignite the atmosphere and destroy the world? And Einstein is basically just like, maybe.
Yeah, Einstein is like, it could not. But is the coin toss worth it?
Mm-hmm. And there's this great scene of like that really characterizes Oppenheimer's character in this, which is when it's this big scene that opens the movie a little bit, in that Strauss is talking about one time where he was taking Oppenheimer, and Oppenheimer had a conversation with Einstein that Strauss didn't hear, and he constantly goes back like, what did he say? What did he say? Well, it turns out that what he said to Einstein says, a while back I came to you afraid that we might destroy the world. Well, now I'm here to tell you I'm afraid that we did. At the urging of Louis Strauss, at the urging of all of these political things, the FBI launches another investigation into Oppenheimer. Basically, because Strauss holds a grudge for this, he leads this investigation, which results in the removal of Oppenheimer's clearance, which they basically rig against him. They bring in a bunch of people to testify that he's basically a communist, and they get all of that in there. Now, I want to say, Oppenheimer, while it is highly debated that whether or not he was a member of the Communist Party, he definitely had communist sympathies.
Yeah, and he definitely had friends who were deeply entrenched in the party,
Mm-hmm.
powerful in the party, even,
Yes.
at least in America.
And even someone who you might consider that he had intense romantic feelings was a huge communist. That to this day is debated on whether or not she committed suicide or the FBI killed her.
Yeah, in the movie, I know we're talking about the movie a lot, but it is interesting because, like, when I watched the movie in theaters, I was like, oh, she killed herself. And then we went to dinner afterwards, and one of my friends was like, oh, no, the FBI killed her. What do you mean you think she killed herself? And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, did you not see the hand? And I was like, what hand? And so later when it came out on streaming, I was like, okay, we got to watch this over and over again. Let's see if we can see the hand. And sure enough, you can see a hand that kind of like pushes her into the bathtub.
Mm-hmm. And I think that is like part of like, hey, this is contested. We don't know what actually happened. But that's really where I want to pause with Oppenheimer, because he does eventually, like, the scientific community basically rallies and prevents Strauss's appointment to, I believe it's Secretary of Defense. It's some cabinet position, some high up Washington. He's going through the hearings, and a bunch of scientists come together, rumored at the behest of Oppenheimer, and oppose his appointment. And so Oppenheimer spends his time, trying to further a scientific study, but he is really, for the rest of his life, he is vehemently opposed to any kind of development of another atomic bomb. And he's even pretty hesitant on the Atomic Energy Commission as well, which is looking to try to use this as an energy source. So a lot of history. This is a big historical figure, like probably one of the biggest scientific figures of the 20th century, and really a lessons in like the ethics of science, of the question of, we know we can, but should we?
Yeah, and I mean, I think Oppenheimer's story is why we need science and humanities. We can't just completely defund everything that's not STEM, because we need people who are trained in philosophy and ethics and all of these social skills to be able to kind of, raise these ethical concerns when science goes too far. I mean, we have so many movies out there about when science goes too far. I mean, look at Jurassic Park. Like, yeah, that's a kid's movie. That's not serious. But a philosopher would have stopped them in that situation,
Right. Or raise the ethical concerns. And I think that's one of the things of like, yes, Oppenheimer is a scientist, but he also delves into philosophy. And that's why he's able to ask these questions. And like, it's also a point, it's why doctors have to take ethics courses.
Yes. Yeah.
To understand like what it means to really do no harm. But back to Assassin's Creed, because this is an Assassin's Creed lorecast. So we do have a little bit of involvement of Oppenheimer. We know that he was part of the Manhattan Project, which we know is headed and funded by Abstergo Industries. So the Manhattan Project is a project that is backed by the Templars. We know Oppenheimer was a part of that. One of Subject 16's glyphs in Assassin's Creed 2 is titled The Destroyer of Worlds, which when unlocked shows the explosion at Trinity in Los Alamos. And then he's mentioned in the Assassin's Creed Syndicate databases. And so he's mentioned there, so we know he existed, obviously, and we know that he had some contact with known Templars and known Templar agencies.
Do we know if he had any contact with anyone who is an assassin?
Boris Posh is an assassin, but he kind of goes back and forth. It's kind of not clear, but he technically is an assassin. Before we get in, here's where I'm kind of going with this. For an assassin argument, I think Oppenheimer's Jewish identity is important to where he would side in this conflict. Especially being a Jewish scientist in Germany when he was a Jewish scientist in Germany. In his opposition to Nazi Germany's efforts, and a lot of what he does, especially his leanings towards socialists and his leanings towards workers' rights and unions and all of that stuff, lends to assassin ideology. And this really stems from, I think Oppenheimer does deeply care about the everyday person. He deeply cares about what the everyday person is going to go through. I mean, he opposes the hydrogen bomb, on the basis that this is going to destroy the lives of so many everyday people. I think evidence for him being a Templar, and this is what I want to talk to. At its core, communism is a Templar idea. That might be a hot take, but I think, and that might be a very American way to look at communism. But its idea is that this small group of people controls and regulates everything about the government, the economy, everything in there. That is a very Templar idea. I don't think socialism and its socialist tendencies are Templar inerrant, but I think communism, at least as we understand it as Russian, North Korean, Chinese communism, is a very Templar idea. I don't know. What do you think?
Okay, here's my thought. I do think I agree with you that communism, especially in terms of Russian communism, North Korean communism in this era in the 50s, is more aligned with the Templars. However, I don't think we can just say, okay, communism is Templar. Oppenheimer was a communist. Therefore, Oppenheimer was a Templar. Because for several reasons. Number one, Oppenheimer's ideologies and potential membership in the Communist Party is hotly contested even still today. So, number one, that logic does not compute. But number two, for me, I very much find a difference between the governmental system of communism and the philosophies of communism. I think there's a very big difference. And I think if I was going to say that Oppenheimer was, if he was affiliated with one over the other, I think he would be affiliated with the philosophies of communism rather than an institution, government, like actual institution in our world. I think he would have been much more interested in the philosophies, given that we already know not only is he interested in learning, but he's interested in all kinds of philosophies already with his interest in Hinduism.
And like Hinduism as a whole is a religion that talks about the general collective a lot, like the general society collective as a whole. Hinduism is not a very strong individualistic. And I will also say there is a big jump from Karl Marx to Lenin and Stalin.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my. And I think that's kind of what I'm articulating with the difference between the philosophy and the government of communism.
He also does work for the Templars, albeit unknowingly. He does work for them when he's on the Manhattan Project. Here's my final answer, and I think you're probably going to agree with me, maybe. I feel as though he ideologically aligns with the Templars, especially if the Templars are going to be the front of, like, we're trying to make the world a better place, and left to its own devices, the world is going to destroy itself. That's the Templars believe they're going to make the world a better place. And so I think if it was framed that way, he would be all about it. But once he realizes the extent the Templars are willing to go, the extent that the Templars are willing to do harm, he would stop showing support for them. He would stop supporting them. He would stop it outright, just like he does with, like, he is gung-ho about the Manhattan Project when he realized the necessity of stopping Germany. But once that's over, he's like, nuh-uh, never again. I think he's a Templar sympathizer that switches sides once they show their true colors.
I hear that. I do. However, my criticism here is that I'm not so sure that he would be blinded enough that he would ever think that the Templars are caring about the betterment of the world.
I think it depends on where it's coming from. I think if the Templar ideology comes from someone like Frank Ferguson or his brother or any of his numbered lovers or his colleagues at Berkeley, if that idea comes from them, I think he's more inclined to believe it. If that idea comes from someone like Henry Strauss or Boris Posh or these people who represent the government, I think it's a different story. I think Oppenheimer's distrust is of institutions.
Absolutely agree there. But also, I think you're completely ignoring the fact that, again, he is Jewish in heritage. Whether or not he's like going to temple every week is a different scenario. But like he obviously cared about the Jews that were suffering in World War II. And so I just feel like any organization that is affiliated with Nazi Germany, he's not going to want to be part of. And then the Templars are, unfortunately.
Yes. But they're playing all sides.
The Templars or the Assassins?
The Templars are playing all sides.
I mean, sure, but also I hear you, and I agree with what you're saying that they play all sides, but I just feel like they're much more deeply entrenched in Nazi Germany than they are any of the other world powers.
FDR and Winston Churchill are known Templars.
I know that, but not all of the cabinet, not all of the United States government was, not all members of parliament were. Pretty much all Nazis were Templars, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah. So anyway, back to Oppenheimer. I hear you on this. And I'm not saying that I do not think that Oppenheimer would ever join the Templars. I do think that it is highly unlikely, given how high his security clearance and how high he was into the government conversations, that he would be unaware of this conspiracy.
Yeah. I think that he would not be officially part of either group as well. I can see where you're coming from, though, of like young Oppenheimer who's like gung ho, like, let's build the bomb. Okay, yeah, like I'll help with these Templar, whatever. Like, that's not my priority. I'll put it on the back burner, but sure, whatever. And then when he comes to regret the bomb in his later years and goes through the trial and everything, I can see him being approached by an assassin who might help him in the trial or something like that, and him kind of be like, okay, this conspiracy went way further than I ever thought it did.
Right. And it is note that like Boris Posh is an assassin, and he is an assassin until...
In the movie. He's in the movie.
Yes, he's in the movie. And he is an assassin up until the 60s, until he's flipped by the CIA.
Yeah.
But it is also noted that Boris Posh is sent to the Manhattan Project to spy on the Templars.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was going to be the thing that maybe this is convincing me more of your side, because Boris is really harsh on him, like really hard on him, like goes after him. So maybe so. Maybe you're right.
Yeah.
I just like to play both sides of the argument because it makes for a better episode.
And like, it is worth noting that Boris Posh is a war hero. Like he instigates and does a lot of infiltration that leads to the defeat of Nazi Germany. Just with the people that we see in the movie who are involved in Los Alamos, who we know are Templars or assassins, it is highly, highly unlikely that he is unaware of this. And I do agree with you. I think that the assassins would at least try to flip him. I think they would see it as an opportunity to try to flip him, especially since the assassins find their strength in people who are opposed to government, like in government stuff, or oppressed in any way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to note that assassin ideology transcends government philosophy. So they will work with communists, they will work with capitalists, they will work with whoever they feel is necessary in removing Templar and control influence.
All right, so I think the final answer is that the answer is yes. He is both sympathizes with the Templars and the assassins at different points in his life.
Yes, I think that he would want to stay out, but he would get dragged in.
Yeah. All right. Well, once again, Austin, thank you so much for doing this research. This has been a really fun episode and definitely makes me want to go watch the movie now. So thanks again, as always, and thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. You can find us on Twitter at AC Lorecast.
If you have any lore questions or topics to unpack, join our Cups Podcasting and More Discord server. It's the best place on the internet. You can also support us financially through our Patreon. Find us on patreon.com/Assassin's Creed Lorecast. The Assassin's Creed Lorecast is part of the Robots Radio Network. For more information about the Robots Radio Network, join the Discord server via the link in our episode's description.
If you enjoyed the show or learned something new today, please subscribe, leave us a review, and join the Patreon. And if you enjoyed our intro and outro music, make sure you give a big thank you to Pipeman Studios. Thank you, Pipeman. Thanks again for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. And always remember, Assassins, stay in the shadows to serve the light.
This episode is brought to you by FX's Alien Earth, the official podcast. Each week, host Adam Rogers is joined by guests, including the show's creator, cast, and crew, in this exclusive companion podcast. They will explore story elements, deep dive into character motivations, and offer an episode-by-episode behind-the-scenes breakdown of each terrifying chapter in this new series. Search FX's Alien Earth wherever you listen to podcasts.
Want to live better? We've got a lot of work to do. Join Chris Hemsworth in National Geographic's new Disney Plus original series, Limitless. Live better now.
I'm diving headfirst into cutting-edge science to uncover 3 powerful secrets to living better right now. The growth that occurs through any challenging experience is really what we seek.
Chris Hemsworth stars in Limitless. Live better now. Now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
It's showtime.